Hi, my name is Angelo Darin. Welcome to Freedom Mobile Living. Why I became a nomad, what compelled me to it, why on earth would I want to live in a freaking vehicle? I'm going to tell you exactly what happened from the beginning. Prior to me being a nomad, I had a business and a warehouse and offices, and I had employees, and we had a service business dealing with air duct cleaning and carpets. And 2 to 3 years before the pandemic, I was sitting out in a warehouse, we were having coffee in the morning, getting the crews ready. And one of the things that I thought about was, how many days a week does me and my partner have to work before we actually pay for our overhead, pay for the warehouse, pay for the offices, pay for the trucks, pay for the insurance, and all the supplies we needed in order to have a functional business. How much did we have to work every week in order to set money aside to pay for it? And when I was thinking about it, and I was figuring it out and putting the numbers to the tablet, I realized you're looking 2 and sometimes 3 days a week. So right off the get-go, Mondays and Tuesday was free. I went out and worked, and all the money went to bills in order to pay for our overhead, in order to have the business that we had. And then I turned to my partner and I said, this is crazy. Working this much, giving a couple days a week away for free labor, especially when the labor is intense. It's not an easy business to operate. It's very intense. Especially as I was getting older, my joints started hurting, my shoulders started hurting, and then I found out I had osteoarthritis, I had carpal tunnel. And when I was out in the field, either supervising or doing some of the work, I felt okay doing it. It wasn't like it was bothering me as I was doing the physical work. It wasn't until after I did the job, and then I suffered from that night, and I suffered the next day and the next day. It seems like it was about 3 days that I'd have pain, and sometimes it even lingered longer. So sometimes I was forced, I still had to go out because the operational of the business needed to be attended to. So I still went out, even though I had a lot of pain. It just aggravated. What I did is I got to a point where I started getting permanent damage. I went to the VA to get checked out. They're carrying me because I was in the Marine Corps. And some of the ailments I have stem from my time in the service. So I'm under VA care, so when I'm looking at some of the x-rays, like my hands and stuff, I'm noticing my knuckles, my joints, they're getting larger in that area. And I was miserable. I couldn't sleep at night. When I woke up in the morning, I'd wake up with pain, and I couldn't go back to sleep, so I just got up. So lack of sleep and everything was attributing to my health. Well, I had to start thinking about that because I couldn't go on forever. And so maybe 2-3 years, the same time that I was figuring out how many days I'd have to work every week in order to pay for the overhead, I was also investigating other ways of living. One of the things I always had in my business and life is every month when the rent came and everything, whether I had the money or not, I just didn't like spending that kind of money on something that was there was not a lot of value for it other than sleeping every night. And so I started investigating other forms of living, and some of it had to do with mobile living, by either living in a car, a van, or an RV, or a trailer, or a Class A, a Class C. I looked at all those. And I was looking at, I didn't want something where I had a large payment, so I didn't want to create overhead. I wanted to minimize my overhead and then start getting rid of some of the overhead, so my life would be, I guess I'd feel less anxiety, I'd feel less stress, and because that was taxing not only on my mind, but also my body itself. So I was looking to try to reduce that. And so I started looking at other forms of living in mobile vehicles, and I was looking at YouTube channels like Bob Wells. He's known for that. He's like the grandfather of mobile living. So I was thinking about, at the time, what do I do? And so I was starting to plan, but it was weird because when I was planning, it was fine. But when I got to become a nomad, the fear set in. a lot of times we'll create fear in our own minds and it's not reality. So it's a perceived idea of what we're doing. It's almost like a sticks and bricks. When I had my house or I had an apartment throughout my life as a teenager, every time I did, I always went back to it. So I'd go somewhere and I'd always have to go back to it. But that gave me a false sense of security. I felt like I was secure and I wasn't. You miss a rent payment, or you go a 1, 2, 3 weeks without income, and that's really going to affect you. Then the stress starts to come in, and the stress starts to not only will bother you in the mind, but it also and give you sleepless nights, but also bother you in the body. Now, not everybody's like that. People have bills and they don't even think about it. With me, if I have them, it's always on my mind. I'm always thinking about it. And I think that's a good thing because it forces me to get off my ass and go out there and do something about it. So when I was researching for everybody, other people were doing it, I wasn't really ever considering myself to ever get into becoming a nomad. And so it wasn't until really, it was the year of the pandemic, and that January, I went to Arizona to visit my sister, and I took a week off. And when I did that, something clicked with me. I believe something clicked, because after I did that, I realized I was missing life. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I didn't get up every day and felt good. Every Monday I dreaded. And so I wanted to get to a life where I guess I feel better about myself, but I feel better about life itself. And so I went to Arizona in January, and then after that I came back, and then obviously the business was running. My partner was taking care of business when I was gone. But when I came back, I started thinking about possibly maybe moving. But before I did that, I'm a spiritual man, so I follow Jesus, and I bring everything to him when I make decisions in life. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but decisions could be small and large, but I believe bringing it to him is very important. And then I tried to look for him to tell me which direction to go. And I don't just, if I get a feeling, it's not that feeling that I think I should go that way. I test it to make sure that what Jesus is telling me that I know, and not the other ones telling me. So I constantly test it, and generally when he does move me in a certain way, he won't just move me one time or give me a thought one time. It'll be multiple things that will happen in my life to move me in that direction. A lot of it is done with prayer as well. So a lot of times he'll speak to me in my prayers and give me an idea or give me something that he would like me to do. And really the first part of my life, I messed up. I did it myself. I made mistakes like all of us do. And so my second half of my life, I thought to trust Jesus, live more with him in my life, and do it on a constant basis. At first, I just started praying every morning like most of us do, or praying at night, and then that's when I would talk to him. And back then, I started to talk to him a little bit more often. If I got up in the morning and I even driving to somewhere, I would ask for his protection. So I started talking to him a little bit more about things in my life. And some of the things, if I talk to you about, the average person that doesn't understand a relationship with Jesus would think it was futile, So that's exactly what I had to do as I was becoming a nomad. So I got back, and in March of that year, the governor of Michigan shut down the economy. And when they shut that down and everybody went to lockdown, like a faucet that you turned off. I mean, the sales were there, but once she did that, then it trickled. The only people that ever used this were people in dire need or think that the pandemic was important. Although at that time, even when we first heard about it in January, we started wearing masks in our company because it was more important to make sure that everybody in our company, as far as customers go, were safe. So then March came by, she did that, and at that point, it was in second week of March, we had really good sales up to the second week. She shuts the economy down, and then we start getting trickles. I looked at our overhead we could, and I said, we can't sustain this. I mean, there's two things I had. I had a choice. When it first happened, I had to decide, okay, how long do I think that pandemic or the close down or the lockdown of the state would last, or even our country for that matter. And so I thought it was going to last a lot longer than 30 days, and it did, but I was using hindsight. I didn't want to be one of those business owners that couldn't pay their bills, and all of a sudden now you're evicted from your place of business, and now you're working to try to catch up. And I didn't want to get in that situation. I wanted to do it where I could control it, because if I control it, I can minimize the damage. So that's exactly how I was thinking, and that's actually what I did. Is so we did that. We put everybody on remote. And then as we went everybody on remote, I decided to get rid of the warehouse and get rid of the offices, and that way I can reduce our overhead expense. My partner stayed in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she kept on continuing to run the operations of the company. I went to Yuma, Arizona, where I did all my work on remote. So my lead generation, my sales, my CRM, and also SEO and website, everything I took care of remotely down in Yuma, Arizona. So I took the rideshare down there with me and wanted to replace my income or have an additional source of income, but I was looking to replace income because of what was happening with the business. So since they closed down the economy, I tried to sell the business, but I couldn't sell it because there was no takers, and no takers I did have didn't want to give any money for what it's worth. They were trying to lowball. So instead of selling it, I stayed down in Yuma. I opened up the rideshare down there to replace income and see if what we could do after the business was finally sold. So I was kind of weathering the storm through the pandemic like everybody was, and then I was going to figure out then. But in the meantime, I was setting myself up to have some remote work with rideshare. And that's exactly what I did. Now, if you like this video and this segment of the series, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. Other part of the series, stay tuned to know exactly how I became a nomad. There's going to be 2 more videos I'm going to put out, and I'm going to tell the whole story. If you're interested in being alerted when that comes out, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I will alert you when the next video of the series comes out. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being with me today, and I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully something in my videos will resonate with you.